Hello everyone and welcome back to F122 for the next episode of Driver Career, episode number 40. This is for round 2 of the 2022 Formula 1 season. We're going to start it off with the Pirelli Hot Lap Challenge that I cut out of the end of the previous episode. I recorded this with live commentary, so I'll just hand over to past me to handle the next couple of minutes.
Right. I don't really know what I'm doing. Don't know. Thankfully we have the dynamic racing line. Otherwise I have no clue when to brake and accelerate. These supercars always feel very floaty. It's like, to compare it to Gran Turismo, it'd be like driving the Plymouth Superbird with no tuning at all. But anyway, 154.18 kilometers per hour. We'll see what that does for us. I think how this works, if I recall correctly, and I probably said earlier that I just wasn't paying attention, that we get 3 attempts at setting a fast average speed. So let's try and brake a little later, carry a bit more speed. We did run a touch wide, but hopefully we can just get some nice power down. And I hit the wall. Apparently that's fine. Might not have done our speed any good, definitely destabilized the car. But yeah, this time we get 153.96. So, still not great. We need to get 157.72 if we want to get the optimal reward from this. So, I think if we do what we just did without hitting the wall, I think we might be on the money. So let's see what we can do. Send it in deep. That might not have been deep enough, or it might have been a bit too deep. It's hard to say at this point, but we need to get on the power nice and early. Lay on that power. There we go. Oh, drifting it. That's going to cost massively. And yeah, that's cost us. Oh no, it got cold. Okay. Well, I'm not going to question it. I guess if you're sliding, you're pushing the limit, but 157.84. Oh my goodness, we just do it by 0.12 of a kilometer per hour.
So with Pirelli Hot Lap success behind us in the average speed zone challenge, we can progress into the race weekend itself. Some cloudy conditions around, but no real chance of rain, so yeah, we will just head into qualifying then for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and yeah, we'll find out where on the grid we will be starting. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. I didn't get a clip of the R&D chart unfortunately before this round, but there wasn't any major changes as we have a big swapper there. That was just on the end of our warm-up lap, so that will have an impact on our run towards turn 1 on our first flyer, so we do need to watch out for that. But anyway, as we carry on, that first lap we did in Q1, nothing special, and yeah, we're going to need to push on for another lap, and we're going to gain some time straight away, although not on the delta there, but yeah, as we continue around the lap, we do improve massively on our first attempt, so just building up the confidence around this circuit as always, but unfortunately we ran out of fuel on that second lap. And yeah, that was the end of our first run in Q1. Unfortunately, not enough fuel to do 2 flying laps, which could explain why we were so fast at the end, because there was so little fuel in the car. But anyway, as we continue to move on, we are in the drop zone, so we definitely need to go again. We've slapped a new set of tyres on the car, deciding to spend those pennies now, and yeah, we'll make the most of these. Unfortunately, we do have Sebastian Vettel in our way on this run, so this is getting a little bit awkward. We need to try and clear the Aston Martin because it is one of the slowest cars on the grid, as we send it up the inside, barge our way through on poor Sebastian Vettel there. He didn't seem to see that coming, but anyway, we continue to push on, sending it into the final corner. Was Sebastian Vettel there, but we gave him some space and we carry on. But yeah, it's been a very much interrupted third flying lap this is in quali. But we do end up going 10th fastest and getting into Q2, so that's very fortunate. We definitely disturbed Vettel's lap, but I mean, he disturbed ours too, so this is actually something I do wonder if it ever comes up in real Formula 1 at some point. Does it count as impeding if your car is just slower? Because Vettel was on a flyer, but the Aston Martin just not as quick as the AlphaTauri, so we had to make that overtake. But unfortunately, Yuki Tsunoda knocked out in Q1, along with the 2 Astons and 2 Williams knocked out as well. Stroll, the best of the 4, who will be fighting over not finishing last in this race, I think. But yeah, not a good day for either of those teams, or not a good start to the season at all. But anyway, as we continue onwards into Q2, the sole remaining AlphaTauri in qualifying, we'll see if we can sneak into Q3. That's really the ultimate goal. There's, you know, a little bit of opportunity for us to do that, but yeah, it's never going to be easy here, especially at a pretty tough circuit like this in Saudi Arabia. But yeah, you can see it's a bit of a messy lap, so I'm not really sure how much to expect from this one. But anyway, we'll see how it goes as we round the final corner and come to the line. What is this lap going to do for us as we cross the line? And again, we saved that right to the end of the session, and we go 7th fastest. So I think the track ramping up there definitely saved us, because yeah, without track evolution, there's no way a lap of that quality would get us anywhere. So yeah, definitely worth saving the lap to the end of the session. It really it does help. It's something I've you know, tested on and off over the years, and I think it changes circuit to circuit as well. But yeah, I really you know, noticed the difference, how much time, especially in Q1, how much time we gained in that second run over our initial flyer. It's so much so that we had to make that move on Vettel partway through the lap as well, of course. But anyway, Q2, Schumacher, Joe, Magnussen, Ricciardo, and Esteban Ocon knocked out in Q2. We move on to Q3. We'll see what we can do in this session. I'm not expecting to go P7 in this one. We've only got one set of soft compound tyres left, so yeah, we are once again saving our flyer to the end of the session. So what we get is what we will have to stick with. I've been struggling with that section a lot more in the F1 cars than I was in the F2 cars previously, in the previous video at this circuit. I don't know what it is, but yeah, that sequence in the first sector is just really tricky to get right. So yeah, as you you know, saw on a lot of our laps, we've run wide in that sort of double right-hander. That's now a long way behind us, but as we continue to push on, the session timer hits 0, so this will be our one and only flying lap, and we'll see what we can do as we head through this left-hander, missing the apex by a mile there. It's a really tough corner, and again, that's another one where I really just couldn't get a rhythm through there. So yeah, there's definitely some work to do on this car. It's not quite as responsive as I'd like, so that's something we'll definitely need to be working on throughout the season. There's something I think that will get better as we improve the package. But anyway, we'll see what we can drag out of it here in Q3. Just getting into this section was pretty lucky, to be honest. We'll come across the line and we'll go P10. So yeah, it wasn't a great lap. I think our Q2 lap was faster.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Leclerc, Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. With qualifying wrapped up now, we have our grid lineup for the big race tomorrow. Be sure to join us then for what will no doubt be a fantastic race.
So it's Charles Leclerc who scores pole position here in the Ferrari. I think they did make a minor improvement coming into this episode for memory, so showing it there, although Carlos Sainz was down quite a way in P5. The Red Bulls second and fourth, Lewis Hamilton splitting them in third, George Russell down in P6, so not a good qualifying session for Russell. And then further back, Lando Norris, Valtteri Bottas and Fernando Alonso. Bottas doing a good job up in P8.
So here we are then, welcoming you today to one of the jewels of the Arab world, Jeddah. One of the biggest cities in Saudi Arabia, second only to Riyadh, gateway to Mecca, and one of the biggest ports in the region. And now, host to the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah street circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Perez, Carlos Sainz, and Russell. Norris, Bottas, Fernando Alonso, and the scientist. Ocon, Ricciardo, Kevin Magnussen, and Joe. Mick Schumacher, Tsunoda, Lance Stroll, and Alex Albon. Vettel and Nicholas Latifi. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. Ant, it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
Alrighty then, so in terms of strategy here, we have some options. Soft tyres don't look to be any good, so yeah, really it looks like mediums are going to be the race tyre for the majority of it. We can actually extend our first medium stint quite a way if we want to, and actually do most of the race on the mediums and leave a shorter stint on the hards at the end. But anyway, here we go then to the 5 red lights. It's lights out, and away we go for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix wheel spin and a full spin off the line. And that has thrown away our qualifying efforts in the first 2 seconds of the race. Goodness me. Let's have a little review of that. Just straight across into the wall. Goodness me. That was catastrophic. I don't know what I did wrong there. I think I just put too much power down too soon, and the car just went straight around. On board with Esteban Ocon, you can see the contact that we made, but yeah, we got going. Thankfully, we didn't suffer any damage from that, as we're trying to check that now. I think I selected the wrong radio option there.
No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving.
But yeah, no issues with the car, so thankfully we get away with that as far as damage is concerned. But we've just handicapped ourselves massively in this race. So yeah, I don't know if points are still in the cards. It's going to be pretty tough from here. I really just have to hope our strategy plays out well. But on the plus side, we have some clean air to work with, so that's something. But yeah, as we continue around the first lap.
Okay, so that was a bad start, but don't overreact. We can salvage this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We can still bring something back for us in this race. If there's a safety car, that'll help us massively. Esteban Ocon, of course, has to come into the pits. Massive damage to the front end of that car. So a new wing goes on for Esteban Ocon, and he should be good to go for the rest of the race. So not ideal for Esteban Ocon, but let's have a little look at the start and see exactly how it played out. And it was a good launch from Max Verstappen. Immediately gets down the inside of Charles Leclerc, who's losing all sorts of places there and tumbles down the order. So, yeah, not a great start by the Ferrari driver. And, yeah, is now certainly, you know, on the back foot in the early phases of this race. But as the battles continue on, that is a full send maneuver down the inside for Lewis Hamilton there on Max Verstappen, and Carlos Sainz watching on. Hamilton's going to take the race lead here as these two duke it out, with Sainz just in behind. Looks like Hamilton's got the inside line covered there, but Verstappen not giving up on the outside line, and Hamilton might just be able to get this done around the outside. Sainz trying to take advantage of this as well down the inside. Verstappen not done with this fight yet, round the outside of Lewis Hamilton, and they continue side by side all the way, and Verstappen eventually manages to maintain the lead, but that was hard fought by the Dutchman. But a great job to hold on to that position. But as we continue to race on through the middle sector now, and it looks like Lewis Hamilton's starting to build up that momentum again. Carlos Sainz still there as well, so this fight is well and truly on for the race lead. Hamilton to the outside of Max Verstappen as they head into the final corner, and the rest of the field stacking up behind them as well. But Verstappen's got it covered for the time being, as I think it's even Fernando Alonso on the back of that train doing well to keep up. And looks like Hamilton's been compromised on the exit, because here comes Carlos Sainz. Verstappen covers to the inside. Now we're thinking about going 3 wide into turn 1. In the end, it's Verstappen versus Sainz through turns 1 and 2. And on the exit, the Ferrari's got some pretty good drive traction going. It's going to have the outside line going into the next left-hander. Verstappen managed to make that line work previously, and Sainz does it this time. And Carlos Sainz takes the lead, watching on, learning from the two ahead, and then putting it all into practice to take the lead here in Saudi Arabia. Carlos Sainz is on the charge, and is already trying to stretch the margin to Max Verstappen. Hamilton still piling on the pressure to the Dutchman. To the outside he goes, and towards the final corner once more. Hamilton round the outside. Verstappen late, too late on the brakes, as carbon fiber flies here at the final corner. Max Verstappen has damage to that front wing and immediately pulls off the road into the pit lane. So Max Verstappen throwing it away here. Hopefully there's no damage to the rear end of the Carlos Sainz car there. But Max Verstappen, the Red Bull crew, were on it very quickly. A new front wing already prepared in the pit lane. They're ready for anything down at the Red Bull team. And Max Verstappen gets on his way once more after the new front wing is attached to the car. But look at the time he's lost. There I am going past on the far left. So Max Verstappen is tumbling down the order and has essentially dropped to the back. So that's most unfortunate for Max Verstappen, and drops into 19th position, only ahead of this man Esteban Ocon, who's also had to cycle through the pit lane for a front wing change at the end of the first lap of this race. On board with Max Verstappen to see exactly what happened, defending from Hamilton just too deep on the brakes, locks it up, and just drives straight into the back of Carlos Sainz. So just a bit too aggressive in defense there from Max Verstappen. Plain and simple, lock up there, and with the front wheels not turning, there was no ability to rotate the car. Just plowed straight on into the back of Carlos Sainz there. But immediately following that, Sergio Perez was able to get the run on Lewis Hamilton around the outside, but a bit of a mistake there, and Charles Leclerc was able to slip through. So unfortunately, that didn't quite go to plan for Sergio Perez. Here's the onboard with Charles Leclerc, and you can see a lock up from Perez, and Leclerc just able to take advantage of that and sneak through. So nice opportunistic move there from Charles Leclerc and the Red Bulls, both of them locking up in quick succession there, as we actually catch the back of the train finally. And now we start to think about how we can handle
Good job.
these Aston Martins, and we get a nice little switchback run through the banking there. Helps us clear Sebastian Vettel, who we've already had to deal with earlier this weekend in qualifying. Next up is Lance Stroll. We had to feather out of the throttle there and almost drove into the wall, I'll be honest. I got a little bit lost where on the circuit I was for a moment. But anyway, we'll full send down the inside of Lance Stroll into turn 1 and 2. And we'll get that one done nicely. We've got the Williams cars, or one of the Williams cars rather, just up the road. It's Alexander Albon as we try and have a look around the outside of the tyre driver, and we're going to have to keep this fight going side by side through this next section, as this is going to get very awkward, but we will get the move done on the brakes down the inside. And now we are just going to start charging through the pack. There's the move on the other Williams of Nicholas Latifi. Easy done. And next up is Mick Schumacher in the Haas, as we're starting to get a few pit stops quite early in this race.
Yuki is in the pits. Yuki in the pit lane now.
One of those being our teammates, so not sure what strategy they're on. Presumably a two-stop to be boxing this early, but anyway, we're all over the back of Mick Schumacher, so we'll see what we can do as we get the power down. Nothing here, no way to get a run on the Germans, so yeah, we are gaining a few spots thanks to those pit stops. As up the road we've got a battle for I think what is the actual race lead. I think Sainz might have come in for a pit stop as well quite early, and this is now Charles Leclerc fighting it out with Lewis Hamilton for the effective race lead, and gets it done I think there, so nicely done by Charles Leclerc, and makes that move. So Ferraris are looking very strong at this stage of the race, both of them able to make progress. Meanwhile, we are on the defense from none other than Max.
Be aware, the grip levels are going to start falling away soon.
Max Verstappen, who's trying to forge his way forwards in this race once more. So yeah, we are under some pretty serious pressure at this stage of the race to try and keep the lap times up ahead of Max Verstappen, who is very, very quick, it's got to be said. Yeah, thankfully though,
The gap to the car in front is less than 1 second now. Well done. Let's try and get past in the DRS.
Verstappen's not getting great runs out of the final corner, but I decided let's just let him go here, and he doesn't go. I left a pile of space on the inside and didn't put the power down out of the corner, as we've got Hamilton getting back past Charles Leclerc, and that looked very odd. Leclerc was on a shallow line out of the corner, and now Charles Leclerc losing touch rapidly with Lewis Hamilton, so I don't know if there's a little issue going on with that car. He's still circulating around the track, not pulling off to the side, but Charles Leclerc is struggling for sure, as now they're stacking up behind Sergio Perez there, George Russell in the background as well. I think Fernando Alonso is on the back of this train, so Fernando Alonso is having a mega race here, keeping up with the top runners in the big teams in the Alpine, so it's a huge race for Fernando Alonso, and Fernando will be absolutely loving this. Sergio Perez pulls out to try and make the move on Leclerc, but it's Russell who might be making the move on Perez first, as they run side by side all the way to the next chicane, and Sergio Perez down the inside of Leclerc and gets through. What a move from Sergio Perez, and Leclerc tumbles backwards again and again, so Sergio Perez gets clear and moves up into second place on track. Carlos Sainz further back of course, but the effective race leader I think at this point, but we'll see how the various other strategies play out. But Fernando Alonso rounding up Charles Leclerc as well, so Charles Leclerc, after starting the race so strongly, is really struggling all of a sudden, so there's definitely an issue. Here's the onboard with Sergio Perez, and well done to Leclerc for seeing Perez coming there down the inside, but Sergio Perez, a nice move there, and a very important one to break free from that very tight pack fighting for the podium. We'll let Verstappen go. He gives us a little squeeze onto the apex, but no harm done.
Okay, focus. We need to stay on form.
And yeah, that should hopefully allow us both to push on. We've got Bottas up the road, and I was really struggling to make any inroads on Valtteri Bottas because Verstappen was just being a bit of a distraction. I had to be a little bit defensive, so I think we're both better off just pushing on. So, oh, Verstappen wide, and we sneak down the inside. We'll get back through on Verstappen as he made a mistake there. And Max Verstappen, he's not having a good time today, is he? Here's the replay, going around the outside of Bottas, and then a lock-up, exactly the same as earlier, but this time on the outside of Bottas, and drives it straight on. He tried to come back to the racing line, we're just about able to get an overlap before he got back to the apex there. And There was a very light wheel-to-wheel contact, but no harm done, no damage somehow. But that was very, very close to our front wing. But that's got us back ahead of Max Verstappen, and now we're behind Valtteri Bottas. Beside Valtteri Bottas, we send it up the inside, and we might be able to make this move. Not quite. We'll slot in behind once more, but we are all over the Alfa Romeo now, so let's see if we can make this move. It's Alfa versus Alfa, Romeo versus Tauri. At the moment, the Alfa Romeo able to hold on, but through the final corner we're really pushing hard, and we're right under the rear wing of the Alfa Romeo. DRS open for us as we head down towards turn 1. We'll have to make the move to the outside of Valtteri Bottas, give him a little bit of a squeeze, but we're going to be through by the time we get to turn 1. Take the apex at turn 2. We've made that move up another position in this race and into currently P8.
That's 8th place. You're in 8th place.
So yeah, we're absolutely flying at the moment, but of course strategy yet to play out, and that's Carlos Sainz making the move on Charles Leclerc. As I said, Sainz made a pit stop, Leclerc has not, so that really shows how much Leclerc is struggling, nursing a particular issue in that car. Sergio Perez has got a problem, and that is a mechanical failure for Sergio Perez, driving so well early in this race, but that's a real shame. After taking a grid penalty in round 1, having to recover from that, and then a flat-out mechanical failure here, it's a rough start to the season for the Mexican, as Lando Norris makes the move on Charles Leclerc. So yeah, Leclerc really is struggling. He's going to try and get this one back down the inside of Lando Norris towards turn 1, but even along there with the help of the slipstream DRS, not able to make that move.
10 laps until your pit window opens. Pit window opens in 10 laps. Okay, 32 laps to go.
Anyway, we'll let Verstappen go again. He locks up again, and we sneak up the inside. Verstappen is having a nightmare at that corner. That's 3 times at least that we've seen Max Verstappen lock up into the final corner, and it's been costly every time. We sneak back up the inside straight away, and Max Verstappen, who is shaking his head in shame after that. That was very much an unforced error. We were letting him go easy there, and Verstappen just locks it up and gives the place straight back. So, oh goodness me. Little wobble there, little twitch on the exit. Is that going to give Verstappen the run as we head towards the line? Nope, Verstappen's diving it off.
Try not to push the tyres too hard. You're probably losing some grip at this point.
Diving it off into the pit lane, and it's another front wing change for Max Verstappen. So he's obviously found contact at some point. We'll go back and see exactly when that was. But Max Verstappen, what happened here? On board with the Dutchman, and he just runs into the back of us through the middle sector there. So yeah, weird one.
It looks like we might have an issue. Hang in there, we're attempting to manage it.
Oh.
Okay, gap to the car ahead is 23.0 seconds. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 14.4 seconds.
I need to commentate this bit. We had this in the first round, a slight mechanical drama. I think it was an ERS issue then. This time,
I can confirm it's an issue with our engine, I'm afraid.
it's an issue with the engine. There you go. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. He hasn't told us to retire the car, so we can continue to race on, but that will affect our pace from here on out. I'll just say it now. I didn't actually find the particular clip.
Some information on Magnussen for you.
Okay, thank you for that information. But Magnussen also struggling with the mechanical drama, as you can see, because all of a sudden he's under pressure from Yuki Tsunoda, our teammate, going for the move around the outside of Kevin Magnussen, and not quite getting the move done there. Mick Schumacher watching on, so the other Haas just waiting to see how this plays out. Is Kevin Magnussen going to try and maybe help get his teammate through here as Tsunoda makes the move around the outside of Kevin Magnussen, and that got a little bit awkward on the apex, but it looks like Tsunoda's going to be able to make that move and does get through on Kevin Magnussen as Mick Schumacher is going for the move as well. I think Schumacher's gotten through. Yes, he has. So Mick Schumacher through as well on Kevin Magnussen, who's just lost a couple of places there. Here's the on board with Kevin Magnussen, and yeah, little mistake there into turn 1, makes contact with Yuki Tsunoda. But yeah, no, I don't think there's any harm done in that, hopefully.
At the moment, the car behind is lapping faster than us by around a second a lap.
As we've got Daniel Ricciardo going for the move down the inside, Lando Norris here as well, so we're surrounded by McLarens at the moment, but Lando Norris not able to get the run on the exit, and yeah, we're able to stay ahead of one of them for now, but we're not in the same fight as these guys, so we're not going to be fighting them too hard, but yeah, the McLarens working in tandem at the moment, although Ricciardo does get a little way up the road by the time Lando Norris is able to make that move at the final corner. But as I was about to say earlier,
okay, those tyres are going to fall off the cliff soon. Take extreme care.
The engine issue that we had did resolve
You
itself.
only have to stop once now. One stop left. Your pit window is going to open in 3 laps time. Pit window opens in 3 laps.
Yeah, it did resolve itself after a while. We're coming to the end of our first stint now. We're more than halfway through this race, the end of our first stint, so it's a very long stint on these medium tyres, and they're certainly feeling it, but I think it's the right way to go. It's going to give us less work to do on the hards, and they're going to be in reasonable condition even by the end of the race. So into the pits we come then, and we'll finally give these medium tyres a break. We've been on them since the start of the race, and it's a very long stint. They've definitely seen better days.
Perfect job on the turn in there, mate. Looks like a nice stop time. We're happy with that one.
But we're off and racing once more.
Up to speed now. Let's get some heat into those tyres.
And we'll see where we re-emerge out of pit lane. And it looks like we're in a pretty handy position here. In fact, we're in 9th, so we're in a very good position.
P9, you're running P9. Keep going.
With fresh tyres on the car, that is unbelievable. We've recovered very well in this race. And speaking of recovering, Carlos Sainz has had an interesting time in terms of strategy. I think he might be on a 2-stop, but either way he's been put behind the two Mercedes cars, but he's definitely got some pace to burn on the medium tyres versus hards for George Russell there. And round the outside goes Carlos Sainz into turn 1, side by side with George Russell all the way through. Who's going to get the traction down on the exit? It's going to be Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, moving up into 2nd position. Lewis Hamilton leads the way at the moment.
The car ahead is 9.0 seconds.
Verstappen's on us. We're going to let him go through the easy way there on the inside of the banking. We'll slot back in behind. We don't need to be holding each other up in a battle. We're still in the points, so that's all that matters. Verstappen can try and salvage something from this race as we have a little bit of an off, but no harm done there. And we carry on. Continuing on though, on board with Yuki Tsunoda. This battle is not too far behind us, mind you, and Tsunoda making the move round the outside of Valtteri Bottas into the final corner, not able to make that stick, but Yuki Tsunoda carrying some good pace at the moment, but unfortunately that allowed Mick Schumacher through, so Schumacher will be the one putting the pressure on Bottas. I think this is the battle for 11th, 12th and 13th, so just outside the points. Tsunoda coming back though, now they're 3 wide into turn 1. Bottas, Tsunoda and Schumacher trying to navigate this section 3 wide, and they do a pretty good job of it actually. Tsunoda comes out on top, moves up into 11th place, Bottas in behind, then Schumacher comes off worst. But Yuki Tsunoda fighting hard there on the middle line to take both of those places. And as the battle continues on, unfortunately I think Tsunoda picked up some damage in that fight, because after that his pace really dropped off. So that's a real shame, but Bottas was able to get through and take that position. Continuing on then, we've got Carlos Sainz on the back of Lewis Hamilton now, so this is for the race lead. Down the inside goes Carlos Sainz on Lewis Hamilton, side by side through turns 1 and 2 on the exit. Who's going to get the traction down? Hamilton's looking pretty good, but Sainz still there on the inside, sparking away. Now on board with Carlos Sainz, side by side through the next sequence, and eventually Hamilton holds on, but I think it's only a matter of time before Carlos Sainz gets through. Those medium tyres on the Ferrari are looking pretty good, and Carlos Sainz definitely has some pace to burn, so in the slipstream of the Mercedes there is not going to be too much Hamilton can do to stand in the way of the Spaniard, who is looking very strong in this phase of the race. Through the banking, right tucked up behind the Mercedes car. There's a DRS zone coming up in a few corners time, so that could be the opportunity Carlos Sainz needs to affect this pass. but they can't waste too much time fighting each other because George Russell isn't too far behind. But this is all for the race lead for those 25 valuable points. And with the unpredictability we've already seen in the first 2 races of this season, every single point is going to be valuable. But towards the final corner, it's one of the better overtaking opportunities around the circuit. So is Carlos Sainz going to be able to make the move here? Right in behind the Mercedes. Not close enough there, but arguably, or almost certainly, the best overtaking opportunity is turn 1. So is this going to be the chance for Carlos Sainz right in behind the Mercedes as they enter the DRS zone? And it looks like Sainz is going to have to go the long way around into turn 1. Hamilton trying to hold off the Spaniard, but Carlos Sainz holds it around the outside inside of turn 2, and they're going to keep this fight going. Hamilton trying to get some power down on the exit. They're going to keep it going side by side, and as they head into the next section, they're still side by side, but Sainz looks like he's going to be able to get through, and does so. Carlos Sainz takes the race lead once more, but boy did he have to work for that one. Carlos Sainz though in the race lead for Ferrari, as we see George Russell with an issue, slowing there for the Mercedes car, and almost gets collected I think by one of the Williams there. But George Russell, a puff of smoke, and that Mercedes car will not be going much further. And George Russell is going to retire from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix with a mechanical failure. Fought hard, but ultimately no results. We go on board with Fernando Alonso, who's currently running 4th in the race, but there's George Russell parked off the side of the road, and that moves Alonso onto the podium. So this has been a masterful performance by the Spaniard, and it could be a very important day for he and the Alpine team. But we meanwhile up the road, back to the fight for the lead. Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton, and Sainz held up by one of the lap cars, Kevin Magnussen there, and Hamilton's through into the race lead. And that has cost Carlos Sainz valuable seconds and an even more valuable position, as Hamilton's released back into first place ahead of the Ferrari. They provide engines to that team, but Magnussen not doing any favours to Carlos Sainz, not obeying the blue flags quickly enough there, and holds up the race leader, or former race leader, as Hamilton slips back through. What a disaster, but it's not over yet, because Carlos Sainz is right under the rear wing of that Mercedes car and is all over the back, right tucked, almost pushing him along, but no move to be made just yet. But into the final corner, this is a big opportunity for Carlos Sainz. There's nothing separating these two, absolutely nothing. Into the final corner, Sainz to the outside, Hamilton on the inside, but no way around for Carlos Sainz. Hamilton holds on for the time being, but another DRS zone awaits, another opportunity for Carlos Sainz, and he could hardly be closer as the rear wing flap opens for Carlos Sainz, storms past on the main straight. Hamilton has no choice but to slot in behind, and Carlos Sainz retakes the lead. So a temporary hiccup, but nothing he couldn't handle, and Carlos Sainz maintains at first place. But Lewis Hamilton, he's not done yet as they race down towards the first corner once more. Hamilton to the outside this time as they head into turn 1. And looks like Sainz might just be able to hold on to this one, but Hamilton, not bad drive traction on the exit. They're going to keep it side by side all the way through the next sequence of corners. And Hamilton makes the move around the outside and retakes the lead again. So Lewis Hamilton is certainly not done with his battle yet, but Sainz again manages to get back through into towards the final corner this time. Goes deep though, and that's the first real mistake we've seen by Carlos Sainz. Side by side with Hamilton, who's going to get the DRS, who's going to get the straight line speed advantage. Looks like Hamilton pulling ahead at the moment. Hamilton with that DRS will be able to stay ahead of Carlos Sainz, or maybe not. Sainz still fighting this one on the outside line into turn 1. Side by side they go. What a scrap these two are having. This is fantastic. But on the exit, who's going to get the traction? They're still side by side, still nothing to separate these two. Carlos Sainz around the outside to the inside of the next right-hander, and finally retakes the position ahead of Lewis Hamilton with just 3.5 laps to go in this race. What a battle these two are having. On board with Lewis Hamilton now, trying to squeeze it around the outside of Carlos Sainz. Can't get through there, slots back in behind, and now with the DRS might be able to make this move as they begin yet another lap in this race. DRS open for Lewis Hamilton. You can see the straight line speed gaining down the outside into turn 1. Sainz gives the space necessary for them to continue fighting Traction on the exit pretty even between the two of them. Sainz slightly better, but Hamilton good straight line speed on board with Sainz. Hamilton pinches Sainz right into the apex there, and Lewis Hamilton retakes the lead. There is absolutely nothing in it between these two. The tyres are matched for performance, the cars are matched for performance, the drivers are matched for performance. There is nothing separating them as they head on to the penultimate lap of the race. They're fighting it out again. Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz through the first two corners. Sainz on the outside line heading into the next left-hander. Typically works well. Hamilton gives it up early this time, slots in behind, and Carlos Sainz maintains the position. But for how much longer? Is Hamilton playing the long game, or is Carlos Sainz in the best position? Do you want the DRS on the last lap? Do you want to be in the lead, or are you better off being in second with that DRS benefit? It's really a toss of a coin, because of course track position is everything, but DRS might be even more. As we continue to watch this battle play on, Hamilton close but not close enough at the moment, still certainly in the fight, but will need to close in that margin. I think Carlos Sainz is just barely safe at that sort of margin, but if Hamilton can close in by a couple of car lengths, there'll certainly be an overtake incoming. But Sainz pushing so hard to try and maintain this margin. If he can manage to hold off Lewis Hamilton into turn 1, that will be, I think, 90% of the work done. It's very difficult to make an overtake anywhere else on the circuit. Turn 1 is the spot, and Lewis Hamilton's close, just over a car length through the final corner. So this is about as close as Hamilton needs to be. What's the slipstream benefit going to look like? What's the DRS benefit going to look like as they head towards turn 1? Is this the opportunity for Lewis Hamilton? Not right now. It will have to be later in the lap, and those overtaking opportunities are much harder to pull off. So Carlos Sainz is looking to be in the best position at the moment. Lewis Hamilton maybe just fading a little bit. I would have thought the mediums on the Ferrari might start fading at the latter stages of the race, but at the moment looks like they are holding on just fine, and Carlos Sainz is using every bit of grip they can offer, every bit of horsepower the engine has, and every bit of skill he's got behind the wheel to try and hold off Lewis Hamilton, because this is not over by a long shot. Hamilton looking pretty close there through the banking. Has the Mercedes driver been saving up some of the battery to make a last minute push on this final lap? There's not much time to go, about half a lap, and Carlos Sainz is in the best position. There's 2 DRS zones left though, so Sainz will need to be wary, need to be ready to defend, just in case Hamilton gets that run. Into one of the braking zones now. Hamilton's not close enough, so as they come out, Sainz has just enough of a margin. It looks to be fairly safe, but Hamilton might have one last surprise as they head up towards the final corner. It's now or never for Lewis Hamilton. Is he close enough to make a move? It doesn't seem to be the case. Carlos Sainz has stretched that margin enough. Through the final corner goes the Ferrari driver. Few lap cars up ahead. They're not going to interfere with Carlos Sainz, who takes a fantastic victory here in Saudi Arabia. What a drive, Carlos Sainz, holding off Lewis Hamilton all the way to the end. What a scrap those two had. Amazing drive. And back to third place, Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. Incredible stuff by the Spaniard. Unbelievable. Fantastic race by Fernando Alonso. That is huge for the team's championship for Alpine, for the drivers' championship in Alonso's case as well. That is going to do wonders over the course of the season. Further back, Charles Leclerc does a good job to nurse that car home. Clearly some issues going on with his Ferrari. Max Verstappen recovers pretty well to finish P5 after having 2 front wing changes in this race. Next up, it's the McLaren of Lando Norris coming home in P6. Solid day for McLaren, aside from Fernando Alonso. They were the class of the midfield. Bringing home P6. P7 for Daniel Ricciardo as well, just ahead of Esteban Ocon, who recovered very well, it has to be said, to finish P8. A front wing change for him as well. And then the battle for 9th and 10th, myself ahead of Mick Schumacher. Funnily enough, we've barely even seen any of my race. I spent a lot of it fairly alone. But Schumacher caught up on the last lap, but not enough time to make a move. So we'll hold off Schumacher to take 9th position. Schumacher takes P10 and a point for Haas. That'll be good for them too. But goodness me, what a race. What a race.
And that brings the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to a close as we reflect on the team's impressive performance today. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on track was: speed. I know it sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari.
An incredible race of attack and defense for Carlos Sainz takes Ferrari to the top step of the podium. Lewis Hamilton will have to settle for second. But what a masterful drive from Fernando Alonso to guide Alpine onto the podium here in Saudi Arabia.
Carlos Sainz manages to take control of the championship, securing the top spot with today's points. Let's have a quick look at how the drivers' standings have changed. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Often my go-to would be a driver who's managed to pull off an especially impressive feat during the race. However, in this instance, I was more impressed by Max Verstappen's solid, clean driving throughout the event.
Let's move on to the constructors. The lead at the top comes down after a strong weekend from the challenging pack. Meanwhile, Ferrari have improved their position. A strong weekend for them as they fight their way towards the top. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Ooh, holy wowie. What can you even say about that race? Sometimes the F1 game just delivers, and this was certainly one of those times. My goodness. I'm lost for words. That was crazy. Crazy. But yeah, let's have a little, as always, a run through the finishing order. It was, of course, Carlos Sainz ahead of Hamilton and Alonso on the podium. I guess we did just run through all these, but Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon, myself and Mick Schumacher rounding out the top 10. Schumacher scoring Haas's first point of the season. But in terms of the drivers' standings then, Carlos Sainz now leads the way. Just 3 points ahead of Max Verstappen. Then it's Lewis Hamilton. So 3 different manufacturers in the top 3. In fact, 4 in the top 4, with Fernando Alonso 4th in the standings now after that result. So that's massive for Fernando Alonso, and looking very good in the early stage of this season. We're currently in P11, just in behind Esteban Ocon, with Yuki Tsunoda just behind us. So we're tied on points actually with Esteban Ocon, 4 each. So yeah, we're basically 10th. Ocon just getting all those points in one race. But anyway, in terms of the Teams Championship, Red Bull lead the way by 3 points over Ferrari. Mercedes, a bit of work to do, 15 points adrift. And then further down the order, very close on points between Alpine and McLaren, just 1 point between them. McLaren with the upper hand for 4th place at the moment, with 26 points to 25. Then it's 5 points for us, 1 point for Haas, with Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin and Williams yet to get anything on the board. So that is the current situation in the standings. So yeah, overall, another fairly decent weekend for us. Unfortunately, Tsunoda with whatever happened in that battle with Bottas. I assume he must have got some damage in that, because he had the pace to outrace Bottas. Caught up, but yeah, ultimately something went wrong in that. And yeah, lost out to Bottas and Schumacher and co. So yeah, unfortunate for Tsunoda, but he'll come back stronger next time. But none of the points finished, regardless, here in Saudi Arabia. Anyway, on to the acclaim screen. We're on level 3, up to level 4. So a little bit more acclaim for us. Not that that's going to do us too many favours in what is essentially going to be a one-season thing here. Our cylinder heads upgrade goes on successfully, and we have a marketing department event. That actually caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting any department events in driver career.
Who you see as your rival. We need your input.
But yeah, this is just to select our rivalry. Bit of a odd way to do it. We used to, of course, have those interviews with Claire back in the day, but I guess Claire's been got fired or something because I haven't seen Claire in a Formula 1 game in a while. But it must have been F1 2021 the last time. But anyway, our choices are for a rival. We've got Daniel Ricciardo or Kevin Magnussen. Ricciardo's pretty much had the upper hand fairly comprehensively on us in the first 2 rounds so far, and Kevin Magnussen did make contact with our teammate in this race, so logically speaking, Kevin Magnussen will be a pretty good rival for us. I mean, we saw with Schumacher at the end of that race that Haas can be pretty good, so I think Kevin Magnussen will be a good rival for us. We'll have some good battles with K-Mag over the next few races. We get 400 resource points for that little mechanical drama we had in that race. That seems a lifetime ago. So much happened towards the end of that race. Goodness me. But yeah, that will give us a little boost in R&D. Funnily enough, actually, after practice, I went into the R&D to, purchase some upgrades, but everything was fully blocked out. We had so many upgrades lined up for Melbourne already that there was just no room to do any more upgrades, so the resource points just had to sit there. But now that cylinder heads upgrade is on, we might be able to do something, so let's check it out. We now have a major engine power upgrade available, the fuel injection system power upgrade. It'll be on the car just in time for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, assuming that is successful, so that'll definitely help us out there with some long straights at that circuit. We continue on.
Our new parts have completed without issue. They'll be on the car ready for the next race weekend.
Through the timeline, we get our Venturi tunnels upgrade, so that frees up our area department to do a bit more work once more. So the next thing we can do is the beam wing upgrade. It is yet another rear downforce upgrade, and we can rush it to get it on the car in time for Melbourne, or we can do the safe option, a standard option, get it on the car in time for Imola. I'm going to go with the rush option just to see if we can get that on the car, because that could be huge for our hopes at our home race. The improved materials for the gearbox fails, unfortunately, but that is a durability upgrade, so performance-wise that's not going to have a huge impact, but I really did want to get that one on the car in particular as early as possible. But yeah, that won't be on the car until Imola, so this first gearbox won't be looking too pretty after Melbourne, but hopefully we won't run into too many issues with it.
I know we were expecting some new developments to come through, but some of them have failed quality control. We'll need to tell the team what to redevelop via the R&D screen.
Yeah, already done that. Our secondary wing flaps and cable assembly upgrades, that's aero and chassis, have both been successful though, so that's another 2 upgrades confirmed on the car for Melbourne, so again that's a good chunk of improvement. What are we going to work on next though in the chassis department? We actually have some options here. That's given us a few different directions to go, whether we want to work on the tyre wear, the weight reduction, or the weight redistribution. And that is what we're ultimately going to do, the weight redistribution to the engine cover, and we'll just do the standard developments on that one, so hopefully we can get that on nice and safely. 99% of the time I would go with standard development. The only reason I did the rush with the beam wing was just because it's Melbourne next, but unfortunately that fails anyway, so that's why I very rarely do it, because the failure chance is just way too high for it to ever really be worthwhile in the long run. But yeah, it'll still be on the car in time for Imola. I think that was actually around the original scheduled time for standard anyway. It just cost a few more resource points. But yeah, so we won't have that upgrade, but it was only a minor, so hopefully that won't be too missed. I think we do have the same number of front and rear downforce upgrades on the car now, which is also handy to have. But anyway, that is going to do it for this one, so I will say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It's always very helpful. But other than that, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Max Verstappen's solid, clean driving throughout the event.